Hello, my name is Crystal Petry, and you are watching another episode of the Crystal Petry Podcast, Season 4. From managing $3 billion in assets to chasing his dream in the luxury residential market, Bryce Grandison's story is one of ambition, strategy, and daring to take the leap when the path wasn't easy. Welcome to the podcast, Bryce. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks so much, Crystal, for having me on. I am excited to be with you today. It is no small feat to be here on your show. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
absolutely.
I received that. I absolutely received
Yeah.
that. So, Bryce, tell us, where in the world are you?
Yes, I am in the great state of Georgia, specifically in the city of Johns Creek, Georgia. It's about 40 minutes north of Atlanta. Johns Creek, an interesting fun fact for people: Johns Creek has been ranked the number one city to live in all the United States by USA News Today as of 2025. So super exciting. Also,
Wow.
New York Times actually just ranked Alpharetta, the city right next to us, as the number one small city in the United States to have a big career in. Funny thing enough about me now in this space, I do most of my business in Swanee, Johns Creek, and Alpharetta, Georgia. I would say particularly some of the best suburbs in all of the state of Georgia. So that's just a little bit of me as we get right into it, but nonetheless, super excited to be with you today.
Look at you already teaching us, and we haven't even gotten started on the
Yeah,
podcast, Bryce. I
yeah.
love it. Shoot, some folks gonna be moving to your neck of the woods, the number
Hey,
one place
that's the
to live.
goal.
I love that.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so Bryce, let's start from, I want to say, the history or the
Yeah,
beginning or the back, whatever word you want to use
yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah.
Tell us how you got into real estate and how you got into asset management.
Yeah, great question. So I got into real estate back in college, and when I say that, I got into it in my mind, which is one of the most prevalent, places that I think that people can start off understanding the power of real estate. I was sitting next to a classmate, and he was just looking at properties on the computer, and I'm like out of all things that we as college students could be doing, what are you looking at?
Right.
Um, and he's like, "Oh, I'm looking at investing in real estate." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And started to understand that nature of what he was talking about, and that was investing in real estate to then be able to buy back your time and get passive income and do all of those things that can then be able to allow you to be your own boss and so on and so forth. And it just stuck with me. And then I ended up reading the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, which is, I
I
would
love that
say,
book.
the starting point. I'm probably gonna have my 5 month old daughter read that book at 10. I don't know,
Yes.
just for her to be able to see the early standpoints of what I read at 22, 20, I'm saying 21, 22. She'll be able to read early on in her life to then be able to that light bulb to go off that much earlier. And so once I kind of got on that front and standpoint, I couldn't knock it. That was just the way that I thought at that point. Started like looking at different, investment opportunities, going back to my grandmother, to my uncles, and being like, hey, like, what do you think about this? So I'm looking at this opportunity. At that point in time, in the hindsight thing, that's what they would call underwriting. I was underwriting opportunities, trying to syndicate, which is like raise money for a deal, and then be able to look at investing. And so I was already in the game, whether I had a title or a company that I was working for or not. I would say that I was in it, and so started off getting it at that point. Um, Fast forward, went on to go, work in a retail management environment, but always still had a love and passion for real estate, and I just couldn't knock it. And funny story, my wife actually started going back to school to get her master's degree in acting, something that she was passionate about. And I said, well, shoot, I want to go back to school too. And I looked at going back to school and getting my master's degree in real estate, and that propelled into a whole new different space, changed my whole life, honestly, of all the different rooms and places that I was able to be in at that level and in that space, down in the Orange County, Southern California area. That then really hit a trajectory of my whole life, I would say. So super excited about it. It was a great time.
What was it like managing $3 billion in
Yeah,
assets?
yeah. So, Crystal, I love that you took that moment and said, "Hey, look, I think that that's the place." Granted, in that moment in time, what you're talking about, I worked for a company that managed $3 billion of assets under management, is what we call it. Yet, I'll answer it from a standpoint of where I was in that food chain
Okay.
of supporting asset management and acquisitions. And so those two things are basically, hey, how do I make sure that we keep raising the value of our properties? And how is it that I make sure that we keep adding new properties to the pool? And in those things, while I was in school, so I was getting a master's degree basically in the evening time and working with that company during the daytime. And so I'm maximizing the amount of my time of really being exposed to that space. It honestly allowed me to be able to see what the highest level of real estate was. And that is doing it from a starting off on a political standpoint, then dialing into your local market, then navigating the different levels of tax strategy and political advantages and all of that kind of thing that allowed that company to get to $3 billion of assets under management in a roughly at that point, I think that they may have been only a 7 to 8 year company. And so that is a big deal in the grand scheme of things. And that allowed me just to really be able to see what it's like to play at the highest level. And then, quite frankly, to then bring it down to a moderate level of how you even just start off with one property, how you then even start off with building it over into 2 units, into 3, and then understanding what it looks like to scale and to go to a higher point. That then prepared me to go into my next role that I then went on to go work for an emerging real estate company in which, yes, I was at that point pretty much our sole asset manager overseeing about $150 million of real estate. So, all of those different things, I'm so thankful sometimes when I look back in hindsight of like, I got to see what it was like to do it up here so that I can be able to add value of what it was to then be able to do it down here and then be able to kind of run and take it on at that point. So it was a great experience for sure.
Bryce, tell us, when did you, or what happened that made you decide you want to become a broker? That's the first part of that question.
Yeah.
Second part of the question is, what
Yeah.
is a broker?
Yes, great question. So, number one, I literally just put up a LinkedIn post about it earlier today. I got a professor back in college who said, "Hey, look, I want you to utilize this well, but you have never met a stranger in your life." And for me, that went a long way to recognizing that I can be in any room and connect with anybody. And I had to early on, and that's been from honestly from the time I've been young. But now at this point, understanding how to basically monetize my soft skills and in congruence with my hard skills that would allow me to then be able to be successful and make a good living. And within that, there was a standpoint in time in which I was being an asset manager, sitting behind a desk, managing property managers, overseeing our financial performance, underwriting, all that good stuff. In which I'm recognizing, I'm like, hey, I don't want to do this forever. I'm not that great just sitting behind a desk. I'm not that great just sitting here in an office all day. I'm best being out in front of people, bringing in 100 people into an event, into our office, to then be able to allow them to be able to bring in, more opportunities for us, business development, brokering, that kind of thing. And I recognized that early on. Excuse me, this Georgia pollen is killing me with my allergies. But early on, I recognized that was a powerful standpoint and point. Went into my boss and said, "Hey, here's what I'm thinking about. Here's what I feel like I'm best geared towards, and what's the highest and best value out of me and my time, and what I feel like I could do and add a lot of value to." And he came back and said, "Okay, cool. Your last day will be in 2 weeks," and he basically fired me. And that, in the grand scheme of things, wasn't exactly what I wanted, but it did push me to the point in which I can say, you know what, jump, and go into really what you want to do. And that's being able to broker deals and be a real estate salesperson.
How did you handle that personally?
Yeah.
How did you handle that professionally? I know you said, you got fired, and then, it kind of gave you the push maybe that you needed.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, just in all honesty, were you mad?
Mm-hmm.
Were you upset? Did you sit around? Like, what was
Yeah.
that time period for you?
I was definitely caught off guard. I had that initial conversation with him on my wife's birthday. 2 days
Wow.
later, then he then comes back and basically tells me that I'll be out of a job in 2 weeks. Um, this is also about a month or two away from my wife graduating school at at grad school. We lived on campus at her school. And so, as you can understand, if you're not in school, you also can't stay here
Mm-hmm.
and live here. So
Right.
we were all roads planning to move out of here with a good paying job, so on and so forth, the whole thing. That gets shaken up in a matter of like this. And, granted, I'm a man of faith and love the Lord, and thankfully was able to then lean in that direction and say, all right, God, well, what is it that you have in store? Fast forward. So yeah, to answer your question, I was definitely caught off guard, shocked, recognizing I have responsibility here. Um, Not excited about it, but I have always had a great passion for being excellent and
Mhm.
being and having a great reputation. And so after going back and forth and just reminding my boss that, hey, I was not resigning from my job respectfully. I was just coming to you as a mentor saying, hey, here's what I think. It was clear, okay, cool, my last day was going to still be in 2 weeks. Okay, cool, fine.
Oh,
Within that, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make sure that I'm excellent here. I'm still going to show up on time. I'm still going to be everything that you would have wanted me to be. I'm still going to pass the torch to the next person in excellence. I'm going to set a great level of a blueprint and playbook for the next person to come in and understand what they need to do next. Here goes everything. Here goes all the things that you can look for. Here go all the passwords, and just did that in a great level of transition. Yet after that, we were already planning on coming to come see some family who we have here, who live here in Georgia, just a few days after what would have been my last day. And just during that trip, just felt like God was calling us to move out here to Atlanta, and so that's what we did. And that was in May of 2024. We landed out here in July, and hit the ground running ever since. So excited to be here now, and quite frankly, would see it as to what happened then. In hindsight, you can look at it and say, okay, cool, that was a catapult into something new.
mhm.
In the moment, it definitely was a pit that you didn't necessarily feel like you knew where you were going next. But thankful in the grand scheme of things of the way that worked out.
Do you know, or did you ever find out why he fired you?
Um, Without going too deep into it, I think that I might have just been one of the first people to just raise my hand
Mm-hmm.
in the midst of a company that went from having 7 employees to then now having 2 employees. And
Oh,
so
okay.
I think that may answer the question enough. But, without, kind of going too deep, I think that I would just happen to be one of the first people at an opportunity for them to kind of look up and see if there was going to be change. Okay, cool. Yeah, let's do that with somebody who may think that they are looking for a different path in their career.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to move on from that. And can you educate us on what is the difference between luxury residential market and just your standard real estate market?
Yeah,
I'm
that's a great
assuming
question.
it probably has something to do with cost.
Yes, it definitely does. Now, in the grand scheme, luxury doesn't necessarily mean everything that you see on TV, and all the Netflix shows and everything. That is, yes, luxury, but luxury by definition is a certain percentage. I think it must be like 10, maybe 15 to 20%, 10 or 20% more than your average price point or median price point in your market. So let's just say, hey, if in the state of Georgia, our median home sales price in the Metro Atlanta, let's just say, is 500,000. If you take 15 or 20% up from that, you're talking about, hey, look, 600,000 plus is technically luxury. So I need to refresh what the actual percentage is, but nonetheless, that is element of the definition of luxury. What we are now recognizing here in the Metro Atlanta area is that, even 700, 800, 900, yes, those are now deeming into your luxury space, but some of our best properties are easily north of one, two, three, four, I'm saying $1 million in some spot in some pocket points. So we are growing. Metro Atlanta is booming. It is no, small city. It is a very much a metropolitan city. I would rank it ideally, no less than, a top 5 to top 7, metropolitan city in all the United States. And it is definitely showing for it in definitely some of your most desirable pockets amongst this area.
What are some trends that you are seeing in the luxury real
Mhm.
estate space?
That's a great question. We are seeing a great deal of space, especially in my area where I'm at, Swanee, Johns Creek, Alpharetta, Milton,
Okay.
even a city called Buford next to us. We're seeing a great deal of building your own luxury home. And that's what we call custom home building. And so we have some really, really great builders here in our area. ADG Homes, Vertical Luxury, the Providence Group is more of a production builder, but they still build some good stuff here too. KJ Luxury Homes is up here in the area. Modernize, Madewell. Those are some of your most high end builders here in our area, and they're building homes that are north of $2, $3, $4 million, $5 million. Um, and that is the trend, I would say, of people coming from all over the country
Mhm.
with equity from other, let's just say, real estate stock, just quite frankly, capital or job relocations and money. And now coming out here and saying, I can build the kind of property that I want on 1 to 2 to 3 acres of land, and be in the area and with all the custom fixtures and
Mhm.
situations that I really want. That's a huge trend here, especially in a city like Milton, which is one of the most predominant, metropolitan cities and areas in all. Not even metropolitan, excuse me. One of the most predominant, suburban cities here in Metro Atlanta, that some of the best families live, and live in. So that would be one of the biggest trends that I would say. People building their own home in the best way that they want to see it done.
What would you say are the biggest mistakes that you are
Mm.
seeing that buyers are making and investors are making?
That's a great question. A couple different things. Number one, I think that there are buyers out there who are waiting on the sidelines,
Mhm.
thinking that interest rates are going to get better for them. But what I think people have to remember and understand is that per every percentage point that an interest rate changes, there are another 100,000 plus buyers who then come into the market looking to buy.
Mhm.
That then at that point increases the price points, and now that whatever savings that you thought that you were trying to get are now wiped out because the price that you're buying at is higher. One person, once told me, a mentor of mine once told me, "Hey, look, start smaller sooner." And I think that a lot more people need to understand that there's a place to jump in and get going. Like, don't look to see, hey, I want to now. And within that, though, comes the standpoint in which people have to adjust their level of expectations and what is it that they really want. Everybody wants, I want this kind of home with this kind of fixtures, with this kind of yard, with this kind of stuff, but I don't necessarily have the budget for that. So I'm going to
Mhm.
wait until that does just magically happen. That doesn't necessarily just magically happen. What typically happens, in which the most people will most likely do, is that they buy a starter home in the beginning that they can be able to afford. They hold it for a standpoint of 7 to 10 years. They then balance it out and then roll into another home, and so on and so forth. Pull the equity out.
Mhm.
You have to utilize the market to your advantage, and you have to utilize real estate to your advantage. And the longer that you wait to get in, the longer that you wait to then be able to do whatever else that you envision thinking about trying to do. And then for investors here in Metro Atlanta, they need to recognize and understand that, hey, Atlanta is no longer just a city in the South that people could try to just buy super, super cheap in and then roll and go from there. We very rarely here in Atlanta have properties that are under $200,000. And if you do, you are now buying a major, renovation project that then you're
Wow.
going to hope to sell for 300 plus thousand. We are not, and there's no disrespect to any other state, but we are not different states here in the South in which you then can just come in and try to just buy up a bunch of property. No, we are next to some of the most, high value properties in all of the United States.
Mhm.
So investors coming in here to looking to try to hit some like super, great steal of a deal at a very, very low entry point is not happening as much as anymore. And I think that there's a great missing middle opportunity of investors who could come in and buy in between, let's just say $400,000 to $600,000, and then be able to sell north of that 7, 8 to 900,000, where there's a lot more buyers right now in what we call a K-shaped economy, where the haves are having, and they got all, what I'm saying, they could be able to go ahead and do what they want.
Yeah.
The ones who don't can't necessarily do that. And so if you look at it from a standpoint of the K, I don't know what you want to do it, but
Yes.
it's just in that realm and regard, we have to take advantage of understand, hey, those who are trying to even buy in that $300,000 and $400,000 range anymore, they are running into, I can't really do that. So the ones who do have the 7, 8, 9, $1 million plus, $2 million plus money, they're buying property with no problem. And that's the reason why I picked this area that I'm in right now.
So let's talk about the business side of
Mhm.
what it is you're doing, Bryce. What are some qualities that you would say would make someone successful in both asset management and real estate?
Yeah, for sure. That's great. And what you're asking for is what would make somebody relative, let's just say, in the commercial real estate, what we call principal side of things, where you work for a commercial real estate company in the asset management space, or if you are on the more, brokerage, real estate investment sales space or real estate sales space of what I'm in. Number one, you got to be competent. I think that's a starting point. But 1A to that or 1B to that is people got to know you, like you, and trust you. Like, what is your network like? I think that, interestingly enough, people who have a really, really great network, if you were president of the fraternity, or if you were president of the sorority, or if you were, class so-and-so, or you just have a really likable job, or you just know a lot of people because you were able to do this and that, you honestly could be really, really successful in the real estate space because you know people, they like you, and they would trust you if you were to have your license and do things well. For me, I'm a little bit of a hybrid point of like, hey, I started off in the commercial real estate space on the principal side of things, competent, master's degree, so on and so forth, and are utilizing now soft skills that nobody can necessarily train onto now the real estate sales side of things. That then when you tailor in those two things together, I personally feel like there's only just a matter of time before I'm one of, just the best of the best in this area when you combine those two things together. And granted, at the same time, it doesn't matter how great of a skill set that I have or how awesome of knowledge that I have. If I do not know people in my area who are buying and moving and selling and doing things with real estate, it does not matter. So Sally Sue, who maybe just grabbed her real estate license yesterday, or John Doe, who grabbed his real estate license yesterday and doesn't know necessarily the difference between square footage or not. It doesn't matter if they know everybody. If they were the so-and-so of, of UGA, or they went to Georgia Tech, or they got a massive network, they will wipe the floor with me and be that much better at real estate sales because more people know them. And so I think that real estate is a really it's a humbling business, but it's one also too that pays you for doing good by people. And if you could do that consistently over years and years of point, you can really be able to have a good career for yourself.
If someone is looking to purchase an investment property,
Yeah.
what are the things that they need to look for that would make this a potential, sale, a potential increase in income? What are some definite things that they need to look for?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I'm sitting down with a client right now, and what I mean by sitting down is having more, multiple meetings to kind of walk them through what this looks like. This is a client who's formerly a professional athlete, now looking to see, hey, what do they now do within the next phase of their life? Mm-hmm. And so I'm letting them know, hey, okay, here go all of the different kind of ways in which you can be a real estate investor. Whether that be just buying and holding a property and then renovating it and fixing, renting it out to somebody and then refinancing it and utilizing those proceeds of that refinance to run it into the next play. That's what we call BRRRR. There's fixing and flipping. There's buying at a low price, renovating it, and then selling it at a higher price. There is multifamily, investment where you can then buy multiple units and now make a bigger pocket and pool. So there's so many different ways to look at investing in real estate. But from a standpoint of like, hey, let's just start off with simple one property, single family rental, a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom in a good school district and area. Mm-hmm. That right there is something that I would say that honestly all people should kind of look to have or to do. When you're able to then be, loop in, and one thing that, is a play and a strategy too is, hey, look, find an area that you like, buy a 3-bedroom, 2-bath in a good school district and area where you could be able to afford it. Cool. Boom. Live there. Do your due diligence and making sure that, hey, look, my monthly mortgage is less than or at least bare minimum breaking even with what I could get in rent. Mm-hmm. Live there for a year or two, move out, do the same thing in another property.
Wow.
Rent that last one out. And now there's some people which they've done that. Like what they call house hacking, or rent out a room. Like there's so many ways to go about doing real estate investing, but you got to start somewhere. You got to find somebody, like I would say, like myself, who could kind of show you all the different vantage points of what you're looking at, or maybe what might speak to you, mm-hmm. and say, yo, let's do it. What is the price point that you got? What kind of funds do you have right now to be able to go in and say, yo, this is what I have to invest with? And let's look at finding that. The one thing I love about Metro Atlanta is no, we're not necessarily on the, extremely cheap end, sub 200,000, 100,000 stuff, but there are some things close to that. And in the grand scheme, we have price points here for everybody, and the 2s, the 3s, the 4s, the 5s, the 6, 700, and so on and so forth. So that's a thing where, hey, look, the pool of people that can be able to go in and invest is bigger because there's so many opportunities at what you can be able to afford. I hope that kind of makes sense there.
Yes, absolutely. Do you think that because it's, you have all the reality TV shows and, different things like that, is the real estate market a stable place to get into to start a career and keep that career?
That's a good question. I would say yes and no. Mm-hmm. For me, I wish that I would have started in real estate sales way earlier. I would have started real estate sales back, honestly, quite frankly, would have got my license in college. Or at least even got it right after college and just cut to the chase. That was at a time point and standpoint where I had a great amount of family support and backing, with my grandmother. So, if you're a college student, which you still, if you needed to, could go back home, and still, got food in the refrigerator, mom and dad taking care of things. If you got that level of support, well, then utilize that to your advantage and say, okay, well, let me jump out here and start to build my book of business. If you don't have that level of support, I understand that too. Find something that you can work within congruence with your real estate sales business if that's what you really want to do. Mm-hmm. Find a stable job or something that you could do while also then doing your real estate sales on the, you know what I'm saying,
Right.
on the side or afterwards, and build out your back door that way. Um, but at the same time, I want to be candidly clear that, like, hey, this business is not for the faint of heart. This business is not for somebody who thinks that it's just going to be easy. This business is not one that, you know, somebody thinks that, okay, you just come in overnight and you just start selling multi-million-dollar homes. That's not reality. Those shows are there to attract, you know, a certain kind of people to look at those shows, but I wouldn't necessarily, you know, don't fool yourself and think that you're just gonna come into this business and all of a sudden you're selling $5 million homes. You
Mhm.
can, you can. I'm not gonna say that you can't, but there is a definite growth process to this business at a whole.
As we get ready to wrap up, Bryce, what is your intention in this space of
Yeah.
real estate, brokerage,
Mhm.
luxury, residential? What's your goal?
You know, number one, I want to make sure that as I'm growing significantly in this space and in business, I'm not compromising my faith, my marriage, my family that I'm now growing. Just had a 5-month-old baby girl.
Congratulations.
Yeah, yeah, super excited. So making sure that the home front is definitely solid and taken care of is a priority to me. And right then following thereafter is being the best of the best in this space. And that for me is a priority to me. That is just a matter of time. It's a matter of gaining people and building relationships. And within that, whether I'm doing business with someone or not, the amount of relationships that I've built here in Metro Atlanta in a very short amount of time has been substantial and has been one that has allowed me to see what kind of level of just people that I could meet, experiences that I could have, different places that I could go, different golf courses that I could play at, different food places that I can try, just all of the different kind of people that I'm able to then meet and being here is pretty cool. Off of the nature of my business being just a very people oriented kind of space. So really just being the best that I can be, and making sure that my family is still, you know, well intact and not compromising that. Um, the sky is really the limit, quite frankly, I would say.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so
Mhm.
much, Bryce, for
Yeah,
coming on and teaching us about real estate and even teaching
absolutely.
us about, I mean, I wouldn't consider it your failure, but
Mhm.
when you were fired, how you worked your way through that and managed that. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you. I enjoyed it so much, Crystal. I appreciate you for having me on, and this was definitely a pleasure.
Thank you. Now, to my community, you can get Bryce's podcast and all of my other podcasts on YouTube Podcasts as well as Apple Podcasts. And remember, you always have time to listen and learn on the go.